Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time there. Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Great church, great meetings, fun. Every week I've been saying it. You come back from a trip and the excitement keeps getting bigger and bigger and greater and greater. There's such an expectancy. The Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as some would do, especially as you see the day approaching. So as we see the day approaching, that means we can tell that we're to gather all the more. Just like, remember when Jesus walked into town, the demons began to cry out, have you come to torment us before the time? So they knew Jesus had a schedule. He was just early. So if demons can know the schedule, how much more the church? So that's what the End of Days Update's all about, is looking at what's happening around Israel so that we can tell what's going on. There's tons of signs. We know there's about 80 some odd signs of the second coming. But the rapture is signless, so we can see kind of what happens just after the rapture, and we see that we're very close to the coming of the Lord. It is intriguing to hear people say, well, you can't tell when the Lord's coming back, and they almost have a fear about the coming of the Lord because of signs. Signs aren't there to bring you fear. Signs are there to bring you peace. They just tell you you're headed toward your destination. So as we get into this, it's not about an escape theology. It's about a hustle theology. As you see the finish line, you run faster. I've never seen anyone train for a race, train. When they're in the race, all of a sudden they see the finish line and go, I think I'll chill now. No, the response is run even faster, give it your all in, and go for it because it's there. We are looking at things every single week that literally show us the finish line that Jesus is just about to come. Let's pick up with what's happened in Israel this last week. You had actually an earthquake of a 4-point-something magnitude in Israel this week. You had another earthquake in Turkey and in Syria. Just horrific, the last one that was in Turkey a few weeks ago. But in Israel, you had the UN come out verbally against Israel, how they're treating the Palestinians. And what was kind of crazy is America sided in with the UN this time. And the U.S. Was chided by Israel that you can't believe that America would go that route. Everything revolves around, there were several different meetings in Israel about, okay, we've got to do something about Iran. With the International Atomic Energy Agency came out saying that Iran is literally at 86% of enrichment, and it has to be 90% to make it there. Just like they've came out saying there's 4 nuclear weapons already ready. So the main meetings that were happening in Israel is something has to happen to take down those nuclear sites. And Israel even commented, we did it in Iraq, we did it in Syria, and we'll do it here. Remember when India and China and North Korea was building a nuclear plant in Syria? Who took it out? Israel did. Who took out the one in Iraq? Israel did. So that was the verbiage, is we're going to have to do what we're supposed to do, because it looks like no one else is going to do that, because it's pretty much an undertaking. Also, Israel fired missiles into Damascus over the weekend. What? They were hitting more convoys of missiles coming down from Iran down into Syria to get retrofitted to newer guidance systems. So that's about the 40 some odd missile attack that Israel's had to do to slow that weaponry down. This will show you how it's getting with Iran and Israel. You had the Ayatollah Khomeini literally wire $4 billion to his son down in Venezuela because he knows something's getting ready to happen there. When you've got this much verbiage about what Israel's about ready to do with Iran, that means something is getting ready to happen. But in the midst of all that, you've got everyone helping the Ukraine. More weaponry. America just passed $180 billion to go help the Ukraine. Along with that, Russia is saying, okay, if you're going to do this, we're going to head toward nuclear weapons. To the point, the Northern Fleet in Russia, when they went out this last week, it's the first time since the Cold War that they went out with nuclear missiles on their ships. You even had the Netherlands say, the Netherlands came out with a report. Their intelligence report said, man, Russia is getting ready to invade the Netherlands. So it's like, when it gets that blatant, it's pretty crazy. You've got bases look like they're being built with Russia and China joining together. I said it last week, you got a new drone factory right outside of Moscow that China is doing with Russia and Iran. That's a pretty big deal, because you know what happened this last week? There was talk of, and a report came out of, the Euphrates River running dry. Why is that a big deal? The kings of the East at the Battle of Armageddon come over the Euphrates River. That's at the end of the tribulation. So if that's happening now, you know a lot's going on. So you got one event after another. Literally the players for the the players for the Ezekiel 38 war are perfectly in position. It's kind of been interesting the last week and a half watching the different reports. Hard to even keep up with all of them. showing how blatant it is. You had those balloons that came out over America. One of the balloons changed, it messed with the avionics of an F-16 when they say, well, those are just weather balloons. You don't have regular weather balloons doing that. And the next one that was over Minot, North Dakota, paused over Minot, North Dakota, where our ICBMs are. And then China came out with a report saying they have more ICBMs than America does. So this last week, North Korea fires off ICBMs all out over Japan, some of them exploding over Japan. I saw the video, man. The U.S. put out an exercise with B-1 bombers, with F-16s. There was more B-1 bombers than I've ever seen in all my life to put pressure on North Korea to slow them down. So we shouldn't freak out about this. It's going to get worse and worse and worse like this. So there's no fear to this. There's great joy to this, that we're about to see the King. I mean, Jesus said, in the world there'll be tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. So the wonderful thing is, we're going to be raptured. People go, you sound like an escapist. That's exactly right. I'm not supposed to be here. That's a time of Jacob's trouble. The Lord owes Israel 7 years of old covenant time. Gabriel told Daniel he's going to come after 483 years, but Daniel said, you guys got 490. So the Lord owes them 7 years. That's 7 years of tribulation. So the church gets taken off the earth, and the Antichrist is revealed, and man, you got 7 years of hell, or pressure being put on people to accept Jesus. So you're at this point right now, so close, more than ever before. So how blessed are we to be the runners in the last day race? Wow, wow. You ought to thump your neighbor and say, wake up, it's time to run faster. Well, let's look at the scripture. We always go back to the Word. We go to the signs. We do it every single week. Number 1, you got Israel made a nation. Number 2, Jerusalem went back. Jesus said the generation that sees those two events won't pass away till all is fulfilled. But then you got the Hebrew language restored in our lifetime. You've got the Ethiopian Jews brought back in our lifetime. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have all this. You have foxes on the Temple Mount, fish in the Dead Sea turning blood red where Sodom and Gomorrah were last year. I mean, it's crazy. It happened on the Day of Atonement, and that's radical. You have 172 different species of predatory birds start showing up in the land. So you have the cleanup crew in Israel right now. The amazing thing is the fertility of the land of Israel. I mean, 120 years ago, Mark Twain was there. He said it's so desolate it won't support life. Yet Israel produces 90% of the fruit for all of Europe. It overproduces because God said, I'll bless the land. So you have event after event after event, sign after sign. Men will be lovers of themselves. You have selfie sticks. It's an absolute bizarre time that when you have mainline denominations even coming out against Christians for standing up for against same-sex marriage, basically the bridge is out when it comes to all that stuff. I don't have time to get into it every week, but man, there's stuff that happens every week that I look at and go, even if I didn't see all the other signs, this alone tells me we're at the days of Noah and almost surpassing the days of Noah. So all this stuff's happening right now, but then you have sign after sign after sign, which are absolutely amazing. You have the Temple Mount, the ritual baths fill up with water. You have the Temple Mount going to be closed at Ramadan here just a little bit. The Jews won't be allowed to go up there. So all these things are happening because the Lord's about to come back. Event after event after event. You had the archway for Baal worship in Palmyra. That's where the Tower of Babel was. Russia rebuilt that this last year. The Talmud says that's the last thing you'll see before the Messiah comes. You have the red heifers that came. 5 red heifers came. You have the 20,000 sheep from Jacob's lineage showed up. I mean, you have all these things in position. The Temple Mount Institute is probably one of the most amazing. You should look that up in the old city of Jerusalem. Just the information they have, all the articles that they have, they have the gold menorah. They have everything ready for sacrifice. Why? Jesus is about to come back. So we go from that to signals. You had blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles 4 in a row a few years ago. Pretty remarkable because, I mean, NASA calls it a tetrad. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back, 1948 when Israel was made a nation, and 1492 at the Edict of Expulsion when the Jews were kicked out of Spain. And God raised up Columbus to sail the ocean blue in 1492. What did Columbus find? The Americas, safe harbor for the Jews. So pretty amazing to see events tied to signals in the heavens. And then you had the Bethlehem star. That's pretty crazy. You had Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus come together. I mean, that's radical. The constellation was Virgo. I love that Regulus did retrograde motion and crowns Jupiter. Why? A king was born. This last year, NBC Nightly News said we have a celestial event. You got Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus come together. What was the constellation? Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So this is it. What do? Help our local church, help our local pastor, be involved. Don't be engaged. Don't be like, no casualness about church. It's a hustle mentality. We're about to see the King. Man, what will we say to him when we see him high and lifted up with his train filling the temple? When we see the throne of God, we see the majesty of our Father, of our Dad, and that our King died for us. They'll be worshiped like we've never seen worship before in all of our lives. So with all of that, let's let that joy and strength propel us to run faster, because all of this is because he loves you so much. All the signs aren't to go, oh, sign. No, it's because he loves you. Wants you excited, wants you happy, wants you expectant, because you're about to see him. Man, we'll come back this next Wednesday. We'll look at what all's happened. Lots happening every week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bless you.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.